Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review, and today we're taking a look at the brand new NECA Guillermo Del Toro signature series Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth. And I've said a couple times recently that I like NECA figures a lot, but they really don't cover too many properties that I'm a fan of, but that's not the case with Pan's Labyrinth. I'm a huge fan of that movie. I'd say that it's probably one of my top 5 movies of all time. I love it. If you've never seen it, you need to go check it out because you're really missing out. But let's get into this. The packaging is really nice. It has a shot of the character on the front. On the back of the box, we get a quick movie description, another shot of the character, and you are able to open up the front of the box. It's held together with a little piece of Velcro. You open that up, then you're able to see the figure itself. And so that's it from the box. So let's take a look at this thing, and man, they killed it with the sculpt. This thing looks so perfect. Check out that nasty looking skin all hanging. It looks so disgusting, man, but it's so perfect. I love the paint work that they got in there. They have some different shades of like a pinkish purple type of color. Looks like meat, you know, looks really gross. And then his legs just look like bones covered in skin. It's really crazy. Look at the face sculpt there. You've got the nostrils cut out. You have his nasty teeth. You have some more of that purplish color around the ear and then hanging down into the chin area. You've got all kinds of nasty wrinkles and stuff like that throughout this whole thing. And yeah, man, this thing is just insane. It looks so good. I've always thought that this character is so creepy, man, and this figure captures it perfectly. You have the eyeball on the palm there that looks really nasty. And you're able to get his hands up to his face here, so that you could have him chasing around little kids that grab food off his table. And yeah, look at that thing. And I wanted to give you a closer look at the hand because I think this thing looks really nice. I like the way that the iris has the red in it, and then there's just some other nasty colors going on there. It just looks really gross. And same thing with his feet. You can see there's some really nice details on the toe and the toenail. And it's a fairly simple design. The character design is really simple. You know, it just looks like a skeleton with skin on it. But it's just so creepy. Like the nails and the hands and the, you know, not having the eyeballs on the face. No nose, no lips. It just looks like a tortured soul, you know. And one thing I do have to mention about this figure is a lot of times with NECA, their QC isn't as trustworthy as some other lines, so you need to be very careful with handling the figures right out of the box. You know, you could snap like their arms right off or something like that. That's happened to me with NECA figures. Not all the time, but it's definitely happened, and I know it's something that happens a lot. But so you need to be very careful. In this case, almost everything was pretty good except for the lower torso joint. I could not get that thing to move. And I know it sounds kind of funny, but what I did was put like a little dab of lotion on the ball joint there, and then it gave it enough like lubricant, I guess you could say, to move it. You could use some other kind of type of oil or something like that to make that work, but for me, I had lotion handy. It's worked for me in the past. I just put a little dab right there on the ball joints, and then they're able to move. But yeah, I was really scared of that joint once I started handling this figure. I thought it was going to snap on me. I was trying to move it, and I decided I'm just going to throw a little dab of lotion on there, and it worked. I know it sounds weird, but it works, and it worked in this case. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there so that someone doesn't just grab this thing out of the box and start messing with it and then snap it in half or something, because that would suck. But anyways, yeah, so they killed it with the sculpt, and just the overall like presentation of this figure is so nice, man. I just love this thing. And he just captures the nasty, horrifying look of this character perfectly. And he doesn't come with many accessories, but the two things that he does come with are really cool. First off, he comes with this chair, and this thing is very nice too. The sculpt is very good on it. You have some nice woodwork here on the side. It all looks really cool. A lot of crazy designs and stuff like that. Yeah, man, this is such a cool looking chair. And you could definitely throw on some other 7-inch or 6-inch figures on here and they would look pretty cool. But I mean, the style of it kind of fits perfectly with Pale Man. I don't know like where else you would throw this. It doesn't really look like a throne or anything. It just looks like a crazy chair that would be like in some old house. And the other accessory that he comes with is this little saucer with the eyeballs on it. And if this had no context or anything, this thing would look kind of funny. But if you know what it is, it's pretty scary. But yeah, It does look nice. The eyeballs are on there with the red pupils. Then it looks like you have like some blood there in the back. So for size comparisons, I just want to show you Pale Man next to a couple other figures very quickly, because I don't think scale really matters at this point until we see some more figures from this line. This guy's just kind of by himself, but just so you get an idea of his size, here he is next to Caesar from Dawn of Planet of the Apes by NECA, and then we have the NECA Ultimate Michael Myers. And then now here we have him with the Marvel Legends Bucky Cap and Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man. And here he is with the Mezco 112 Collective Ash from Evil Dead and the 3A Robo Hunter. And the articulation on this guy is pretty interesting. It has a lot of articulation points packed in here, but some of them are kind of weird. But he is able to do the basic poses that you'd want him to do. He pretty much only needs to do two things. He needs to be able to sit down, and he needs to be able to put his hands next to his face. And he's able to do both of those things. So I'm okay with the articulation, but there are just some weird things that they did here, and we'll talk about them in just a second here. So his head is able to move side to side. You've got some down movement. He looks down to about there. He actually has two joints here. I mean, 2 points of articulation at the head. His head is able to spin at the upper neck. And then you have some up and down from the lower neck. That's where you're going to get your side to side and up and down. Then you're going to get your left to right from the top joint there. And he does, yeah, his head moves in all kinds of good directions. So the articulation on the head is pretty nice. And then for the torso is really cool too. He has a, I guess you could say like an upper torso joint and then a mid torso joint or lower torso, whatever you want to say. He's all, you know, the proportions are kind of awkward on this character, but yeah. So his torso up here, you're able to spin side to side, but it is tight, so be very careful. And you could tilt a little bit. You could go back to about there. You could crunch forward a really nice amount, especially using both of them. Look at that, that looks nice and creepy. And then as I mentioned, he has the lower torso joint, and you need to be very careful with that. Find a way to loosen it up. But for me, it was really tight. But once I got it, it was able to rotate around. Still kind of tight. It makes me kind of nervous messing with it. But it's definitely there, and it works. Hopefully, on if you pick this up, that you know the joint on yours isn't as fragile as this one. Hopefully, it works just fine if you guys get it. But yeah, anyways, so there's some crunch there too, some side tilt. Some good stuff going on in the torso. And then for the arms, they could go all the way around, come out to the side. There's no upper bicep swivel, but there is a swivel at the elbow. And it's a double jointed elbow, so that's really cool. NECA's been doing that a lot lately, and that works really good. And then there's swivel at the forearm, where the forearm and the elbow joint is. And then for the hands, there's a swivel and a hinge up and down. But I do kind of wish that there was a swivel on the forearm itself. It would kind of make it easier to get his hands onto his face like that. But because there's swivel at the elbow, that kind of solves that problem for you. It just makes it a little difficult to get it to his face. It takes a little extra work than it would if there was a forearm swivel. But, you know, it works out fine. It's good. You could get him in that crazy pose, so I'm okay with it. And then for the legs are kind of weird too. His legs are really like just a skeleton, you know, so they're very strange. But his leg doesn't have any upper thigh swivel. You only get swivel from where the joint goes into the torso. So there's that. If you want to get his leg out to the side, you have to spin it from right there, and then the whole thing just kind of looks crazy. But let's see here. So his legs can go forward like that so that he could sit down in his throne. They could come back. You're probably not gonna, I mean, this probably doesn't matter because you're probably not gonna need to do a bunch of crazy poses with Pale Man, you know. But his legs do move all around, and you could get some really creepy looking poses with what you could do with his legs, you know. But again, I mean, I'm glad that they didn't put any kind of swivel up here, because that would have made it look not as good. So I'm happy with what they did here. But it's just a little goofy when you're messing with it. And then for his knees, he has a swivel and a single joint. But all of it's kind of hindered by the skin flaps, and I'm okay with that because in this case, you know, I'm more concerned with the sculpt and just getting them in the basic poses than I am with just the idea of certain pieces of articulation working, if that makes sense. And then for his feet, you have swivel side to side, and then kind of some up and down movement. But he has no problem standing. So the articulation is pretty good on this guy, but the design of the character definitely hinders some of it because, you know, the skin flaps and just weird things going on kind of make it weird when you're posing him. But they did make sure to nail those key things, so you can get him into this weird pose and you can get him to sit, and you could get his arm out in front of him so that he could chase around little kids or whatever you want him to do. You know, so, I mean, everything you need to do with Pale Man is possible.
Okay, so overall, I really like this figure, and I'm very happy with what they did here, because when I saw these figures at Comic-Con, I was really excited about it. It was probably the one thing that I was most excited about from the NECA booth, because they had a bunch of cool things in there, but nothing I'm really into. Pan's Labyrinth was pretty much the only thing that I'm a big fan of that they had on display there, so I was really excited about it, and I'm kind of relieved to see that it came out as good as it did, because it's a perfect representation of this nasty, disgusting, horrifying, terrible monster that's in this movie, and NECA just captured it perfectly, which is no surprise. They always kill it with the sculpt, and in recent years their articulation has been getting better and better on their figures, so I'm glad to see that at this point in time is when they chose to do Pan's Labyrinth, because they were able to stick the necessary articulation in there. And the articulation is not perfect, but the figure is able to do everything that you want him to do. It's just a little, I don't want to say frustrating, but it might take a little bit to get there. It might take a little bit of work to get him into the poses that you want. It's not quite to the point of frustration, but you know, it's just a little complicated, I guess that you could say. So in the end, it's a really good figure with the perfect sculpt, pretty good articulation, and then really good accessories. So what more can you ask for? They did a good job with it, and I'm really happy with what we have here. And I can't wait for the other characters from Pan's Labyrinth to come out, especially the Fawn. That thing looks like it's packed with details. I think it's going to be amazing. And Ophelia looks really great too, and I'm interested to see what accessories they pack in with her. And I'm also excited for the asset from Shape of Water. That thing's going to be pretty cool too. And I've never seen Devil's Backbone, but I might have to backtrack and go check that out, and maybe pick up the NECA, I don't know how to say it, Santi from Devil's Backbone. That figure looks cool too. It comes with like a crazy diorama with like a nuclear warhead deal going on. And yeah, that all looks cool. And it's just so cool that NECA decided to do these Guillermo Del Toro toys, because they're just so visually interesting and the movies are awesome. Like I said, if you've never seen Pan's Labyrinth, you're really missing out. You need to check it out. But anyways, I think that's it. So thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that cool stuff. And thank you very much. Peace.